All right, so let's get started. Everyone will join as they come in. So I want to thank everyone for coming. It's great to be reunited with the great folks at ASMP, and it's really their night tonight. I just need to thank a few people who are always supportive of projections over the years. It's American Photography, Pro Photo Daily, Epson Printing, and printers, and Photo Shelter. Always terrific, always very, very helpful, and very supportive. I also want to thank Noon and Ted for organizing this and getting us three great presenters. And tonight we have Eileen Lerner and Michael Berman and Lynn Saville. But before we start, we're going to turn it over to Liam to just give us a little bit of insight into this great organization of ASMP. It's all yours, Liam.
Thank you, Frank. Hello, everybody. My name is Liam Alexander, and I am the president of the New York chapter of the American Society of Media Photographers, or ASMP. And why? And it's my pleasure to be here tonight. I'm so excited, Frank, to be back working with you. And by the way, I can't wait till we're back in person working together. It's going to be a glorious day. We have done so much with Frank over the years, and we're so happy to be co-hosting a night with you. We love projections. So ASMP, let me tell you a little bit about ASMP as an organization. For those of you who don't know, we are the premier trade association for photographers in America. And here in ASMP New York, the work that we do is about advocating for, educating, and I like to say entertaining and enlightening the photography community. I, myself, and Ted and Nune who serve on the board, and a couple of other you that are here. What we do is we generally provide all kinds of programming and for both folks here in the New York area and also across the nation. On a national level, ASMP does advocacy in Washington, and we've done some really great programming. We're looking to help out artists and photographers and creatives during the pandemic and at these times. And you can go to asmp.com and check out. We have some amazing stuff with COVID protocols and also with the loan programs, the PPP and the EIDL. We have endless videos that you can view from our legal department about how to navigate all those programs and things like that. And I would like to share with you a little bit about on local level. ASMP New York is producing some upcoming programming that's really exciting. We've got tomorrow, we have our Skillshare program. Every single month, we have our members teaching all kinds of new and exciting skills that you can use right now. So we have Stephanie DeWorkin, who's an amazing documentary filmmaker. She's going to be teaching Premiere Pro for iPhone video, which is going to be great, how to use your iPhone and work that into your repertoire. We have a monthly town hall coming up where we get to meet and come together and ask questions and support each other as a community. We also have a monthly crit by the amazing Pamela Jean Tinnant, our curator. You can submit your work. Eileen's worked with her, you know, she's a fantastic, fantastic curator and hilarious human being. And she is, right?
She's great.
So each month she's hosting a monthly crit. So you can submit your work ahead of time, and her and the group of fellow artists and members will discuss the work like crits back in the old days. We've also introduced another program that's going to be only on Instagram Live. It's called Ask a Curator, where her and Sherry Littlefield, who is another board member, another amazing curator, I think she works at every gallery in New York, the hardest working woman in the business. You can ask them any question that you want on Ask a Curator on Instagram Live. And we also have plenty of other programming. So please check us out, asmpny.org. If you don't know about our organization, please shoot us an email. We love to get you on our email list for all kinds of events that we have upcoming. As I said, we're here to inspire, to educate, and also to advocate for the photography community. So reach out to us, let us know whatever you need, and we are here. But tonight is all about these three amazing artists who all also happen to be ASMP members. And I'm going to pass it back over to you, Frank. I'm just happy to be here, and I can't wait to see what these guys have to show.
Great. Thanks, Liam, and it is terrific to be back. So let's get started with Miss Saville. Lynn, you're on.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm proud to be a member of ASMP and proud to be living in New York. I really love the city and I'm looking forward to showing you these pictures. I think I should open the images because I like to have them up. Uh-oh.
Option space bar, Lynn.
It only
go.
works when
We're
you
good.
tell me. I did it before, but when you say it, it works. Whoops, okay. I want to go back one picture. Okay, I want to talk about my love of taking pictures at night and taking pictures mostly in New York. And so I thought I would start with this photo, which is very, very old. It's a picture from my family's house where I grew up in North Carolina, grew up in Durham, North Carolina. And I remembered being really little, you know, like 3 years old, and noticing that when you looked out at the backyard, this is through the porch screen, that it looked like a perfectly nice backyard with a lot of woods and everything behind it. And I thought it was nice, but at night it became so mysterious, kind of like a dramatic place, kind of full of, and it was the same place and there wasn't anything really to be afraid of, but it sort of gave me we used to call it heebie-jeebies, you know, and I thought it looked really interesting. So when
How old, Lynn?
The picture?
Yeah.
Oh, the picture was taken when I was in graduate school. So the picture's, you know, quite a few decades ago, but I saw the feeling of the night. I'm just showing a few super early ones just to get the idea. So when I started taking pictures, I was quite fascinated with everything, you know, day and night, people on the street, you know, Gary Winogrand on to Cortez and people like that. But the first few years whoops, I'm sorry, it's skipping around funny. I'm going back. You're getting a preview. I just want to show you the black and white first. Okay. So I had this passion for moving to New York. So I'll skip the childhood part. But one key thing about my childhood was that two things. My father and brother were really good amateur photographers, and they really keen, you know, they put the camera on the telescope in the backyard and with the rotator on and things like that. But the other key thing was that my parents were professors and we took ships from New York Harbor to Italy from when I was 5 years old, then when I was 10 and then 15 to go live there because they had a sabbatical, and the experience of going through New York was riveting. I love New York. Why isn't it proceeding forward? Okay, so this picture I put in, I'm only showing you a few black and white. The black and white was a very big part of my first years as a photographer, as might have been for some of you as well. But this picture I took once I was a graduate student at Pratt Institute, and I was just going across the Staten Island ferry with back then I was using a Leica, and I had it all set for the light, but I wasn't thinking of any particular picture. I was kind of set for anything. And I saw the sister ship, so to speak, the Staten Island ferry going the other way, passing, and it riveted my mind to the experience of being on the ships going across the ocean to Italy. And luckily I had it set on like a 60th of a second or something. And I mean, I was really, really zen connected to that boat because it reminded me so much of the kind of fanfare that we experienced in the middle of the ocean, which normally had nothing to look at. I mean, of course, beautiful skies and stars, birds and things, but, and the water and horizon. But I mean, there weren't very many other ships, but then when we crossed the sister ship, it was pretty stunning. So that picture was kind of a memory. And this was a picture from my apartment at that time. We're talking the 90s now. And I think what appealed to me about the window was that it, first of all, the glass on the top half had the old glass in it, and that's why it's a little wobbly. And the whole thing gave me a kind of a Hitchcock feeling. I was thinking more of Hitchcock than I was Hopper. Doesn't really matter. Wait, okay. Just because I want to keep the black and white together, I wanted to just show you a couple of pictures. Mostly I photograph in New York, but occasionally I went to Paris and would take pictures. And this is from the Eiffel Tower looking down on Pointe Diana, which goes right under it. And my husband thought it was funny because it was just full of tourists. And he said, why do you choose to go to a place that's full of tourists when you could have all the whole city to do your own thing? But I find sometimes tourist places are very interesting.
So Lynn, you always started to shoot in a fine art way, right?
Yes, I've always been more bent on my fine art photography, though I also am a commercial photographer. So I do commercial photography and I do fine art, and I also teach. My parents being professors, you know, the whole house was full of, you know, the life of professors, and I thought it was a really great way to live. But when I got to New York, I thought it'd be more interesting to be a commercial photographer for a bunch of reasons. One of which was I didn't want to just feel like a carbon copy, though I admired my parents. I just didn't want to be like a full-time professor. So, and plus I'm kind of really active more than scholarly. Like, of course I read books, but you know, I'm not like somebody that's going to sit and pontificate for hours and hours on theory and things like that. Anyway, so thanks for asking. Yes. Oh, and this is in Palais Royal. That's also in Paris. So these images I just showed because they're kind of very important and like oldie goldies to me. And I was happy that I was able to have some, well, I had a book published by Rizzoli called Acquainted with the Night, and my husband, who's a poet, well, the publisher asked if he would edit some poems to go with the pictures, and I thought that that would make it look too much like a Hallmark cards or something, but the publisher allowed us to make it a sort of a meditation on the night. So my husband picked poems that weren't like side by side, like here's Central Park, a poem, you know, it's like all the poetry and all the photography kind of was a dialogue. And it was very lucky that I was able to get the show and then the book. The book actually helped me get shows in different places. So after that book came out, I felt that I needed to change something because I had worked so hard for a number of years on black and white, mostly New York and wherever else I could get to. But I felt I had to explore something different. And I never really thought about color, but I don't know if you all get like this, but like in between projects, sometimes I'm like in a panic, like, what am I going to do now? Like, it's best if I don't even finish a project and I'm already thinking of the next project, but I wasn't. So the way I switched to color was I went out with two cameras, the same camera, you know, like it was a 6x4.5 Fujifilm camera. One camera had color and the other had black and white. And I just took the picture, the same thing in both, with film, of course. And after trying many things, what worked was the color. So, but I decided to explore the city in a different way. I mean, I'm kind of skating over a whole lot of stuff, but a lot of my pictures in Acquainted with the Night are from all different places, even India, mostly New York, but wherever I went, it didn't have to be about anywhere in particular. It was really about the night. But when the New York city pictures, some of those were really famous places like Rockefeller Center. So I had a lot of iconic places. And so when I started to switch to color, time had passed too, because by now it was about 98, 97, 1997. And I felt the city was changing. So I started exploring it in differently. So I really loved the Central Park.
Beautiful.
I mean, it was kind of like a crazy seeing all the colors. You know, I was really used to black and white. As a matter of fact, when my husband and I flew over to Paris one time and I had the color, I didn't sort of do both at the same time after I decided to switch. And I said to him, what do you think Paris is going to look like in color? And he just burst out laughing and he said, it's always in color. I thought of it as a black and white, like it was going to be a different place. And it was in a way. Okay.
It's interesting how these photographs are contemporary for now, without people in them. It's the way the city is, right? I mean, that's sort of interesting.
Well, most of my
With
pictures
COVID.
don't have people, and
Yeah.
it's because I really like to meditate on the city. I like it to be my own, kind of, not like I'm a czar, you know, but I just like the feeling of like being like in a peaceful place, and it's not about the people. But this little kid ran in front. Luckily, I had the camera on the tripod with the cable release in my hand. I was like taking the picture of the scene, and the kid ran into it. And it was lucky because then her mother didn't even see me, the mother, which is funny because there wasn't anybody else there but us. But she told the kid to come back because she wasn't supposed to be on the grass. So that was funny. But it worked much better than the ones without people. So I'm not saying I have to have people, but I'm just saying that it was interesting when people started to come into my pictures. And these are just different pictures from my second book, which came out in 2008. It was called Night Shift, and it had an introduction by Arthur C. Danto, a very well-known art critic. I was honored to have become friends with him. He lived near us. Anyway, these are pictures. I mean, you know, we're experiencing a lot of vacancy right now, and the original title I had for this book was Vacancy, but I decided that the idea of vacancy was too much like made people think more about motels or stuff like that, or empty stores. I mean, it didn't seem to suit my project, so that's why I changed it to Night Shift. But what was interesting was a whole different kind of structure started to appeal to me. You know, this is much more architectural sort of. And I love light. I just love the surprises of different artificial lights. And does anybody know why the colors of the lights are different?
I have no idea.
Ages of the bulbs, probably, except in some cases, maybe they just put in the wrong color.
Ages of the bulbs.
I think they do change. I learned it from a lighting designer. Anyway, I'm going to go a little quicker. These are just, you know, this is Chelsea. This is all prior to 2008. So I did another color book in 2015 called Dark City. And the rest of my presentation is a combination of some from one book and some from the other, because they do overlap a certain amount. But one thing that's the distinguishing characteristic of the color from the black and white is that it's only rare that there's like a really iconic place. But sometimes it's not a rule. It's just that I started to venture into places where it was obvious industry had started to give way to residential areas. And actually I taught briefly at, I mean, it's parenthetical, but I taught briefly at Parsons a long time ago. I mean, before people all had cell phones and could take their own pictures, and digital cameras were so frequent. And they asked me to teach lighting designers how to photograph light because of my use of color and everything. So, you know, of course, we went through the whole thing with the tungsten film and the daylight film and the white balances and stuff. And it was so fascinating. I feel that I learned as much from them as they learned from me. But it made me really hyper alert when I walk around to see the play of light on buildings, and it's one of the reasons I like to take pictures at night and twilight. So what's happening here, this is in Dumbo, right under the Manhattan Bridge, and the subway goes across and it sort of flickers, you know, sparks, and also its lights very bright sometimes, and it paints this kind of light and shadow on that corner. As of course it's really, really loud. Like every time I've taken a class out there, I can't even talk. They can't hear me. It's kind of like I have this screech in their ears, and why bother? You know,
And
so,
Lynn, you came upon this?
yes, but I have to say I went back a few times because I wanted to use a very high resolution medium format camera. And the first time I went there, there was the FedEx truck, and I thought, oh, I'll wait it out, thinking he was going to make a delivery and leave, but he never left. I don't know where he must have gone to dinner.
Lynn, I hate to interrupt. Can you move your mouse so that we can see the whole image and not the control panel for the slideshow?
This?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Anyway, so this is residential now, but I've been in New York long enough where I remember Dumbo not being Dumbo. It was, I don't even know what they called it. Maybe they called it Dumbo back then, but to me, it was, you know, you could smell spices and all kinds of funky things because there were so much industry there. So it's really made a big change, and I'm fascinated with that also. And this is the same area. This is when they were building the Manhattan, you know, the Brooklyn Bridge Park underneath the Manhattan Bridge.
Wow.
I got special permission to go in there when they were doing this, but I don't usually do that. So I like going into places with special permission. And just some more pictures where it's light and shadow. This I thought was funny because I was focusing on the the vacancy idea, and, or, you know, and most of the other pictures had so little in them in terms of the stores and stuff. And it was chock-a-block full of stuff, but it still felt kind of lonely. And I thought it was funny. I saw a person walk up the hill and they went away before I got ready. So I asked my husband to walk up, and I got him not to be self-conscious because I told him I was taking this picture when he went down the hill. And so he looked more natural because he thought I wasn't taking this picture. But anyway, I just like, sorry?
No, and Lynn, do you scout first, or you're just walking around and you find, and the light just hits you and you realize this is something special?
I usually don't scout as much because the place has changed so much in the light. You know, I mean, I like to, I mean, I scout in that I would go back to the same place, maybe even multiple times, but I always feel like I have to be ready the first time.
Right.
And then this, I thought it was funny that this was in the height of the, you know, when the downturn of the economy around 2008. And I thought it was very enterprising of the landlord to have this mobile sign that said space for rent. Because like, if you look, this is like 51st Street, like around near Times Square. And I thought it was strange because if you look down the block, every single building was dark, whereas like that whole area is usually kind of known for being kind of bright. And so having this bright colors pouring out on the street added some interest to the block and to the building, of course. Anyway, but I really just like the colors.
So Lynn, you know, with your husband being a poet, someone had, Ted and Noon had a great question. With your husband being a poet, that collaboration, which one of you inspires the other one more? Or is a collaboration a one-off here and there? Like, how does that work for you as a creative couple?
Oh, well, we're not really like Ted and Noon because, I mean, we are in that we're, you know, happy together and everything, but he's a poet. He doesn't take pictures. He doesn't come with me. I mean, he admires my work and I admire his, but you know, he doesn't actively participate in the pictures at all.
But do any of his words inspire you to get somewhere else, or your imagery inspires him with his prose?
I don't think my imagery inspires his. his poetry is very much more kind of political.
Ah, okay.
Doesn't really relate, but he also publishes a poetry journal of other people's poems. It's called the Manhattan Review. It's really highly respected. And he always used one of my pictures on the cover. So, and that's how we actually met, was because he needed a photographer to take a picture of a painting for his first issues and that's how we met. So
Does he pay you for that photograph?
that's a great question, because we had a big fight about it. Because I
It's
was
gotta be
thinking,
paid. You need a rep.
yes. I said on my gravestone, it's going to say, you owe me $35. Oh,
There
so
you go.
this is a more recent picture. It hasn't appeared in a book or anything, but I thought it was remarkable how some of these empty stores, I'm not seeking empty stores. I did it so much in 2008, so that this being taken like in last fall, it's kind of like I'm not seeking empty stores at all, but I can't help but be kind of slightly attracted by amazing reflections, and I'm a kind of a pushover for wires and ladders, anyway. And this is near Grand Central. It's on Madison before the one Vanderbilt was built, or it was being built, but it hadn't gotten up high enough. The one Vanderbilt, that big skyscraper next to Grand Central, is like 50 stories, or it's huge now.
Yeah.
And so you could not see this reflection anymore but you still could at that time. So just some other ones. I'm into shadows too. This is near where I live. It's 125th Street, but over by the river. And they were renovating the store. And this actually went into the first color book. And I was surprised because what you see is all this stuff in these reflections, like on the right over here, this reflection is like New Jersey and the Hudson behind me because of reflection. And then, these lights are coming in from street lights and cars and all kinds of stuff. It's just, but when I see something like this, I realized I have to shoot it immediately, because tomorrow the person's going to come and move the ladder, so if I have to come back with a better camera, like a bigger format or something, I always have to do it quickly.
And Lynn, do you go out by yourself at night, or are you
I
with
usually
somebody?
do.
You usually
I
do,
can
okay.
concentrate better, but I have some really great friends who sometimes want to go at dawn. We sort of make it, it's a kind of a fun thing. We'll get up early, or we go in the evening to maybe Bushwick, or I don't know, even the High Line.
Right.
So this reminded me of Felix Gonzalez Torres, I guess his name was. He had a lot of fallen lights in a sculptural piece, and it was in the biennial in Venice. And also at the Whitney Museum, they had a whole stairway with this kind of lights. But this was just left there. One thing I never really explained to the people who read my book, either book, that like when you see a picture like this, I'm not in the space, I'm outside the window. So I bring the Windex, it's like I don't get permission to go inside. I just shoot what I see, but that may make it better for you to understand why there's a little glow of blue down here. It's coming from the twilight. And it was fun when I took this, because it was super dark back here, and I didn't know that this came out much better than I had even seen with my own eyes. So that was cool. I'm almost done here. I don't know what time it is, but just put in a window. And this is Red Hook. I love Red Hook.
Yeah.
And then people started to appeal to me more, but it's tricky I didn't talk to this person. He was just there, and I had to shoot very quickly and try not to get him in motion. So I had to use a fairly high ISO, higher than usual, but luckily I had the right equipment.
And Lynn, when you're shooting through windows a lot, how do you avoid the glare?
I usually put the camera right up on and sometimes I bring a piece of velvet with a hole in it for the lens and tape it to the window.
So right on the glass.
Yes, and I might take off the filter. I
Okay.
have to be super careful, but of course I take off the lens hood, you know, the sunshade.
Right.
You have to kind of, you get in this sort of flow of it. And this picture, I kind of really fell in love with this intersection in Newburgh, New York. An assistant said her parents had moved there and maybe I want to come visit, and she'd drive me around. And I just like totally fell in love with this intersection. And I took another picture that was in one of my books here without the figure, and it was just a few, maybe a year earlier than when this was taken. I think this was taken at about 2015. Oh no, I'm sorry, 2017. The other picture, this building on the left is still a warehouse, more of being used as either a warehouse or an empty warehouse. And now with the lights, you could see that it started to become residential. And I find that, it's not that I'm trying to do a documentary about them, but I just love the mixed use of the architecture and just the history in this one corner.
Yeah. So Lynn, there's got to be times when you go out and you shoot and you realize like that shot, this shot is magic. This is just, I know this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful print, right? I mean, how exciting is that when that actually happens, right? I mean, because I'm sure sometimes you come back and it's not what I thought it would be, right? And then something like that last shot on that corner, you know that that's going to be spectacular.
Well, I was happy because the person, I don't usually bring a person to do anything, you know, to say, go stand there. I feel like I keep telling myself I'm going to do that, but so far I've been just finding somebody actually standing somewhere. And in that case, I said, could you go stand there? Because it was a friend of mine who had driven me there. I didn't plan on that, but she was willing, and she just took on the right attitude. Because, you know, you all know as photographers that if the person isn't, if they have a funny mentality or whatever's on their mind, it could almost show in the picture, even if it's from the back. And I just felt like she just fit the scene. The way her attitude is just fine. It's perfect. This picture, I had never been to the Pepsi sign. I had seen pictures of it, and I was kind of like casting around where to go that night or something. And I went over there with a smaller camera, like a 645 roll film camera, and I thought it looked like such a rich landscape, and with the lights and everything, that I got up at dawn and went back with a medium format, you know, 6 by 9 centimeter film camera and color film. It's kind of a little, it's an ebony. I don't know if anybody knows that camera, but it's really good. It's kind of like a little view camera because I needed to get the feeling of the land. And then there are just a few more. It's funny because actually you were talking about my husband, and he helped me come up with this title for a workshop I'm teaching right now. It's called From Golden Light to Blue, Photographing at Sunset and Twilight, or something like that. But anyway, it's from golden light to blue. And so those words were in my head, and I was out shooting and I was thinking, well, there it is, the golden and the blue right there. I thought it was funny because the way I teach it includes sunset time all in, you know, itself. And then in between, and then the twilight, and then as it goes into dark. But I felt that this had both colors in it.
Yeah. So Lynn, like after shooting roofs like this and different elements, can you start to tell, oh, that's a refrigerator system, that's an air conditioned system, that's their heated, you know, have you garnished knowledge like that?
No, you have to come help me.
Okay, Michael,
know?
there's your answer.
I welcome pals. And we live, like I said, up by Columbia. I think I said it. Anyway, this is the viaduct, and you know, Columbia University has been building a huge new campus up there. I mean, they demolished blocks of these kind of other buildings that have been there many years, including restaurants and parking lots and storage units and storage facilities and things like that. There was a lot of controversy in the neighborhood, but you know, they cleared away like 2 or 3 huge blocks. But I I kind of like the architecture, and I'm going with it. You know, I'm not fighting it, but I find it really interesting how they build the architecture. It seems like right up to the allowable line. You know what I mean? It looks so close. Anyway, I just love things like the viaduct. I think it harkens back to my trips to Europe too. You know, you take a train and you go in and out of these tunnels, you know, and so having these big snaking infrastructural elements, I find very appealing. And here's the subway platform at 125th Street. I don't even know what time it is. Okay, I'm doing all right. I'll finish in a second. This is in Bushwick. As you can see, this isn't my infrastructural detail, but it's one that appeals to me. You know, it's not in our neighborhood, but it's in Bushwick. Subways. And this is the last picture. I took it from a moving bus on the highway at dawn. Okay.
So Lynn, where can people purchase your books?
Oh, sure. I guess you could go onto my website. What should I do? Escape. You could go to my website.
Tell us your website.
Oh, www.lynnsaville.com. Or you could go follow me on Instagram, Lynn_Saville, and Saville. And then I could tell you. But I hope I didn't go too long.
No, that was absolutely great. A lot of terrific comments in the chat room. That was really, really wonderful. Any books that you sell through this presentation, of course, you have to pay the VIG on that, but that we can discuss later.
Okay, I have, just real quick, I have 4 books. This came out by Chris Graves in 2018, but I think it sold out. It's part of a box set of city pictures. Acquainted with the Night. This came out in 1997. This you have to really, you could maybe get one. They're kind of out of print. This was Night Shift from Monticelli in 2008. And
So cool.
The last one, Damiani, in 2015.
Yeah,
Right.
I take that back. You don't need a rep. You're fine.
Well, thank
You're a
you so
businesswoman.
much. Can you send me the chat by email?
I guess that's a J question, but I assume we can.
Well, thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, please email me. I would be happy, but I don't want to take up the time of the other people.
No, you're great. So let's just take a minute break. We'll get Michael set up. If anyone needs to get a cocktail, this would be the time to do it. And we'll be ready in 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you
for listening.
Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
If
nice.
Liam is around, you want to talk about ASMP, Liam, while we get ready? Or not? Fine.
He's
So
getting a
only if
cocktail.
there's
I think Liam's
things
there.
that
He
people
is.
want to know.
Yeah, if anyone has
Hey.
questions about membership or anything pertaining to ASMP, now's the time. Hi, Erica, Olga, great.
I would share that, you know, one of the cool parts about ASMP is that we have amazing photographers like Lynn, and we also have commercial photographers and wedding photographers and Instagram photographers. And really, like, what's one of the cool parts about ASMP for me is how we bring together people from all parts of the photography industry, and we get to put people in conversation. So that's always something that's very cool for me. And phenomenal work, Lynn.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Are you ready, Jay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Michael,
So
Mr. Michael Berman.
I have to do share screen first, right?
Correct.
And then I have to go, let me turn on the sound. 1 sec. Share sound. So there's videos in this, so hopefully that did the trick. You guys will tell me if the videos don't work. 1 sec. Okay. Hi, I'm Michael Berman. Thank you so much for having me, Frank and ASMP. I'm really honored and happy to be here. I'm going to talk about this project I've been doing for the last few years called 99 Snapshots, but first I want to back up to what I was doing before that, or kind of how I started off in New York. I had moved to New York in 1987, and I'd always loved New York and knew I wanted to live here. And as soon as I did, I started taking pictures on the street, just of things happening, people looking this way or that way, disparities, oddness, classic stuff. I mean, the clothespins and the hat, stuff that's gone, fans. And then modern more, because this is digital, but I guess around this point or here, I started to notice that New York seemed to really be changing a lot. A lot of the, I mean, you can, I guess, still walk around and find pictures to take, of course, like the ones that I just went through, but it seemed like a lot of what I was seeing or what I was noticing was people looking at their phones. And so that kind of became a thing. I was like, all right, well, what does this say about how we've evolved culturally? And, you know, it kind of made me sad. I'm guilty of it too. I'll look at my phone sometimes when I'm out. I try not to. But I just kept noticing it. Just when you look and you pay attention, you realize that those moments before where people were connecting with each other, you know, you have to work a little harder to find those. And yeah, so around that time, I came across these old pictures that I had taken in 1999. For like 2 months. At the end of that year, I had gone around and photographed around 300 or so people who I didn't know, who I just found on the street or in shops or in the subway all around Manhattan. And I never did anything with them and hadn't really looked at them as a set in a while, and just started to go through them and think about these people and what had happened to them. And I had their names because it had been meant to be a project. So I decided that I would start contacting them. So first, here's some of the people who I haven't found.
But Michael, what was the reason to do that? Yeah,
Back in 1999, what was I doing?
No, like back in 99 and then now, like what is the reason? Are we thinking of a book? What are we thinking?
So, you know, I guess I left out some. When I was taking the pictures on the street, and as I have been, I've always just really gravitated toward people and how they're connecting with each other. And I think my love for New York from the start was always just because New York has this major confluence of people everywhere. And I just was always interested in it. And even from a young age, because I didn't grow up here, but even from a young age, when I visited, I'd be really, really curious about, you know, all these different people who just in such a variety, going in hurries or confident or sad or, you know, happy or whatever, you know, whatever you might encounter. And so when I took these pictures of the people in 1999, in part, it was really just an extension of that. I mean, it wasn't street pictures like, you know, snap a photo as actions happening. It was stop people and ask them, can I take your picture? But to me, it all really connects. And what I was getting at in 1999 when I took these pictures was a little bit toward their stories. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, maybe it's fortunate because I've done a lot with them, as I'll show you recently. But unfortunately then, I had wanted to turn it into a book, and I was working with someone else and we had to split apart. I mean, she came up with something that she wanted me to sign that was not, you know, everyone said, don't do that.
A publisher?
So a friend.
A friend, okay.
A friend, and we had collected interviews actually. So we had collected interviews. It was in 1999, so this is before social media, before even the internet had really taken a big hold. And maybe it could have turned out to be something like Humans of New York. I mean, it's a lot grittier. It's not polished. The pictures are, you know, not they're not conventional always. I mean, sometimes they're centered and snapshotty, but other times, you know, you have to kind of look at them a little more carefully to see why, you know, I might think it's a good picture. So, but that didn't exist to compare to it at the time anyway.
Just Michael, I just want to interrupt you. One thing important.
Yeah.
If you could do it in 1 or 2 sentences, when people are thinking about collaborating with someone,
Yeah.
Certainly without any names or anything, can you tell us, avoid this or look for this in that partner?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I love to collaborate. And so as I'll show you, I've been working on a film about this project, and I've brought in amazing people who are helping me. And I always want people to collaborate with. In terms of the pitfalls, I just think that you have to make sure you're on the same page. You know, I think that from you know, unfortunately, even creative things in this world are business somewhere down the line. I mean, a lot of the times, most of the time they are. So I think that, you know, it's not something that when you're feeling creative, you naturally come to, you know, to like think about the business questions and make sure you're on the same page with that stuff. But I think that that's probably the thing to do, is to just make sure that your goals are the same and that, you know, you're on the same page. And, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, yeah, obviously I'm not going to mention who it is, and you wouldn't know anyway, but that's what I would say.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought it's important for this audience.
Yeah, but I think it's great to collaborate. I mean, I think when you identify someone who shares with you, you know, a similar aesthetic and things that you want to accomplish, like message, like what's the message of something you're doing, and you can bring someone else on with you to do that together, it can have so much more power, and also you can be dividing so much work depending on what you're doing.
Okay.
So now these are a few photos of people who have passed away, and I've gotten stories about them. Not him, but that first person. This guy, I got great stories. This person also, he was actually kind of significant in New York in the 1970s and 80s. I really wanted diversity when I took those first pictures, and I realized that there were some people who you don't necessarily encounter on the subway, and maybe they're also the people who might not stop for you if you say, hey, excuse me, can I take your picture? So I networked a couple of times and got to her and a few other people. This guy played underneath 14th Street, like I think between 7th and 8th. And I think he's passed away. I looked him up, and actually a little blurb was done at the Times about him at some point. And I do remember that this guy was, I mean, he was beautiful, but I remember that his violin music was really not good. These people were in Ratner's, the old kosher dairy restaurant that was on Delancey Street. And now we get to the people who I've been following up with. So the very first roll of film that I took for this project was this guy. His name's Dachin, and he was on the 1-9 train up near your guys' stomping grounds, near 116th Street. And so I took a few photos of him on the subway, and then we got off with him, and I photographed him also on the sidewalk. So that's him a year or two ago. And this guy was in a bar on Park Avenue South. His name is, I have to look at my notes to remember the name of the bar.
Showing the grids like this is really great.
You like it?
I like it. I mean, Noon mentioned it, but it really is terrific, especially for a project like this, because you really get a sense of this guy, right? He's a charming guy.
Yeah, he's a charming guy. I remember this was the afternoon in a bar on Park Avenue South, and he was having a good time, and he still has a good time. We met at the same bar.
Has he left that bar, or has he just been sitting there?
He's left that bar. He doesn't go there regularly, but you know, it's one of these bars where everyone knows. I mean, it's literally like a Cheers.
Yeah.
People there. And he told me great stories. He told me about 9/11 and how like everybody who was a regular at this bar, just without talking, you know, again, most people didn't even have phones at that time. They weren't texting. They just all showed up at this bar, and it was packed. you know, just on that day.
Wow.
So there's a video of him. Hopefully, wave if you don't hear it. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Mike?
Thanks for meeting me.
Not a problem, not a problem. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you again.
Great to be here with you again.
What's been going on?
Let's my God, I don't know. Where do I begin? Let's see. I don't know. I got married. Well, that was like 7 years ago, so I got married. It really hasn't been a hell of a lot, to be honest with you, Mike. I was working, and I'm not now, so I'm just,
20 years, not a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, hasn't been a whole hell of a lot.
No.
I'm very boring, Mike.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm very boring.
That's great.
So I just love, I mean, when I started filming these people, I just love how, I mean, finding them and then filming them, seeing how pictures can come to life with people who have stories to tell. And it's like I'm looking back in a window of time, like into the past. I'm finding these people and I can talk to them about the last 20 years, during which so much has happened. And I can also find out who they are and what they've been through. So this is Jack. He does like this lounge act at like a dive bar on 14th Street. And he sings like kind of lesser known songs from the 1960s karaoke style. And he puts it on the web also. And here's a video of Jack.
I was talking to my cousin the other day. The wind came up and blew a wig away.
This wasn't like this years ago. Now you walk down up this Lafayette Street, and you get all kinds of tourists, things like that. This is a nice casual walk. Now you're going to see it's going to be really trouble. You're going to run into mobs of people like this.
What do you think they're in line for?
It's probably some restaurant or something that is the latest thing that they
What are you guys in line for?
Glossier.
For what?
Glossier.
Glossier? So like
It's like the only store they have.
They even sell wigs in the grocery store. Wigs, wigs, wigs.
That's Jack. He's
Michael, this is great. That's really fun.
Thank you. He's cool, right? Why do I have this here? Okay, this is this guy William, and with the priest. The priest has passed away. I spoke with the people from his church. I didn't dig very deep. William now works as he works, I guess, like as a superintendent or janitor, I guess you could say, at a women's shelter in East Harlem. And this is Nina. And it turns out after these 20 years went by, and Nina's been living, less than 20 blocks from me the whole time. And she specializes in estate sales of apartments, like as a real estate broker. And I love that she carries 2 bags, then and now. And so Nina, yeah. So this guy is Abdul, and he had a little cart over near that park that's now called Zuccotti Park. And I didn't know how to find him. I couldn't find him on the internet. And I looked at this contact sheet and I saw Nina, which is like the top half, and that Abdul was right after Nina. So after I met her here, I wandered around to see if I could find his cart, and he's still doing his thing. He's got a bigger cart. That's like a chicken and rice with lots of stuff on it. He's like half a block away. And this is Eric. He was in Central Park with his then wife. They're now divorced, and that's him in his apartment in Brooklyn. This is Johnny. He owned this tiny little barbershop just north of Hell's Kitchen on like 9th Avenue called Roosevelt Barbershop. Maybe some of you guys have passed by it. And he passed away, but working in that shop was Jobina, and she's now the owner of the shop.
And Michael, do they remember you, these folks? Like on
Some
the call?
Yeah, most don't. Some do when they see the picture. And some people who I'll show you actually remember the day. And I mean, I don't know if it's a coincidence or means something, but the people who really remember me, I think most of the people who actually remember this day are the people who are now very old. So maybe it's something to do with like how our memory works and what we remember from when. Because 20 years is a long time. for like some little thing that happened to actually remember it. This is Jeff. He worked 20 years exactly on the police force and then retired and got his full pension. And now he's a stay-at-home dad in Long Island. This is Roy. Roy lived in the same apartment almost his whole life. Unfortunately, he passed away from COVID last spring. And he would only meet me at this one diner on his corner, which was really noisy. And I have a lot of very sketchy audio that I'm trying to sift through to find something that I can use from him. I was playing around a little bit with these collages at the time. So I haven't done as many this time around, but I've done some. Here's some from a few more from 1999. And this guy on the right, Charlie, he and his mom have a family pork wholesale business. They were in the meatpacking district, and the whole meatpacking is basically gone. There's only a few businesses left. So now he's in the Bronx in a rather nondescript location. I've talked a lot with him about how that felt to him for his business to have to move to sort of like this area of nothingness, just businesses and trucks, when he had been in this vibrant neighborhood with so much going on. This is Alzarina. She was recently, or not recently, but she was like married very young. She had just had her second kid, and her husband did not treat her well, bad things. And she got divorced from him, thank God. But on her own, while she was still married with him, she started a successful jewelry business. So I'm gonna play a video of her.
I did a deal on Groupon, and on 11 hours, I sold over 5,000 pieces. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do because it was my first time doing a deal like that. I'm doing this deal. I'm thinking I'm going to sell 100 pieces, yeah? But I sold over 5,000 pieces in 11 hours. And I'm like, how am I going to do it? I had my neighbor. I did all the packaging from my neighbor's house and packed the stuff. After my husband would go to work, I had people come and help me pack the thing. I mean, it's like
you had a whole secret.
I lived a double life, which I am so thankful I did it, because if I didn't have that life, who defined me, who would like for me to find myself, there was no way I would be the person I am today, because I had nothing.
She's great.
So Michael, is the idea to end up with a book with this? Like, how do you see it?
So doing the film has kind of taken over because it's such a vastly huger endeavor, and I'm teaching myself how to do it in editing and everything and audio and gosh. But I have been doing follow-up pictures, as you've seen, with each of these people. And I would love to make a book out of it. My idea would be to do then and now pictures, but also to include a nice amount of text so that we can get a little window from each of these people or couples in the book. Because I've always liked that. I've always liked to kind of see how, I love how pictures tell stories. And I know that's, a picture, 1,000 words, but I also just think that, and from this experience, I've seen that, when you ask someone who's a so-called ordinary person just regular questions about themselves and get them to open up a little bit, you find out that everybody has something to say. Everybody can offer, insights that are magical, or that make you think, or that maybe even sometimes they tell you about problems that we have in society. But all of that is stuff that I think we shouldn't avoid. We should be curious about other people and see how we can learn from them. And so, yeah, I think a book with pictures then and now would be great. And I'd love to track down all these other people who I haven't yet even been able to call, because I've got enough people basically for the film at this point.
It'd be interesting, like, to have a book, but then give people like a special access to the video piece of it, because the video piece of it is phenomenal, right? I'm sure there's a way to do that, but that you'd have a thumb drive or some kind of a link that would be exclusive to that book owner, so they can see that. Because
that's a really cool idea. I mean, because I'm editing the film, so it's a cohesive piece. However, I have much more footage that I can pull from what I filmed that won't be in the film. That could be, I mean, a lot of what I chose, a few of the things I chose for today are probably in the film, but most of them are just extras. And there's a lot of really good extra stuff.
Yeah, Allison Hunter mentioned something. You can get a private link on Venmo.
Yes.
To do that.
Yeah, I could offer a code on Venmo.
Yeah, so I interrupted. Continue.
No, it's okay. I'd love to crack the book, the code of getting a book made. I mean, that's just always felt like such a daunting thing, but I would like that. So anyway, this is our Royal and Amanda. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. They were their first, it was the first, boyfriend, girlfriend each of them had. They lived in the East Village. He lived in the Lower East Side and she lived in Stuytown, and they would wander around the village at night. And that's how they had time together. So they were just in front of the Rite Aid on First Avenue, like around, I think it's 4th Street or something. Neither of them lives in New York now. So I met them separately and then composited these two pictures together to kind of recreate what I had before. This is Constance. She was in the Odessa bar on Avenue A, and this is her with her family now. And before I knew that I would make a film, I thought I would just do audio of all these people and do something maybe like what you just said, and you could hear them speak. So I put one of the early audios that I did onto this picture so you can hear what that was like.
When I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to have a family, and I knew I wanted it to be tight, and that's what I have now. If I could have made every single choice that I made and have enough money to live more comfortably, of course that would be great. I wouldn't trade what I have, and who knows if I would even have what I have if I had done that.
I mean, it's a different experience, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So as I was starting off and seeking people and just doing those audios, I met her, Victoria, and she is a teacher, a middle school teacher, but also she makes documentary films. And when she met me and I told her about these pictures, she was the one who said, you got to try to make a film out of this. So she actually inspired me to go to all of this trouble, do all this work to turn it into a film. These two, my wife, my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, was working at a restaurant in Soho called the Savoy, kind of like an organic-y kind of thing. They cooked in that fireplace in the background, and I was there after doing some of these pictures one night, and these people were having dinner celebrating their 1-year anniversary of dating. So I don't love that picture, but I like these, and I love him, and she's great. And this is her now, and this is him now, and I have a short video of them.
I didn't necessarily not want kids, but I didn't want kids. Like if I met somebody who was like, I didn't feel the maternal, like I always said, if I met someone who was like, I can't wait to have like 3 kids and a dog, like, okay, I could be into that, but it wasn't.
You would have ran away from that.
If you had said you really wanted to have a son or a daughter or whatever, what you said was you wanted to be a grandfather. And I was like, well, you can't be a grandfather without the kid part. And neither of us were like into the kid part. So it just, we were like, okay, we're both ambivalent.
I've had the same attitude. Like I didn't feel at no point growing up or, in my younger years, I didn't feel, I really need to have a kid. But if she had woken up one day and said,
okay, what's happening?
I got my moment.
Not a compromise.
I need a child.
Yeah.
Then I think if that would have happened, I would have been into it.
I just love how they are with each other. Really sweet. Yeah. This guy was one of the later people I called because I didn't love his pictures, but I'm so glad I did because he's added a ton to the project in terms of some of the themes and topics that I've been covering with people. Marion so a lot of these people who I've photographed, I've become friends with, and she's one of them. I mean, I talk to her on the phone probably every couple of weeks. She's in her late 80s now. Those are her two granddaughters. She would bring them to dance school every weekend as they were growing up in Harlem. So that's her with the younger, the one she's dancing with on the left. That's the same girl, woman now on the right. Her name's Lindsay. And this is Marion. Yeah.
It's interesting the way you present it, because when you show the first image of the three of them, like, you've now created this situation. We can't wait to see the next shot. You can't wait to see the next shot. So it's just from a presentation standpoint, that's really, really nice. Really.
Thank you. So this is, I've met her a lot of times. I've filmed her a lot, and I'm going to show you a video in a sec. She's just like so sweet and great. So this is her in church. She's a devout Catholic. This is her in her room. She's lived in the same apartment in the projects at the north end of Manhattan since the building opened, like in 1951. She's been living in the same apartment.
This is ACLU.
Mm-hmm. You gonna give them anything?
Yes, I do. Scheinberg Center, Catholic Charities. This is the Boys and Girls Club of America.
How many times a year do each of these places want money?
More than once a year.
More than once.
Yeah, but I don't give all the time.
You gotta, I mean, so.
Because they send it,
it's all your
2 or 3 months until, like that. And I just do what I want to do at the time. Now, see this one?
Yeah.
What does this say? American Vet Dogs. See, that goes back.
You have income from a pension and Social Security, right?
Yes,
yeah.
I have both, yeah.
So that's how you can afford all this.
Oh, that's what you think?
So the day I photographed Marion, you see her at the top in the center, the second row. I photographed a couple of other people, and that woman with the hats, the fourth row down, I said to her, do you have any other ideas where I could take some pictures? I remember doing this. And she said, well, there's a dance performance going on in the church right there. So I went in and I got these few average pictures, second to last row, of a performance, and that was the end of it. But then I wandered into, I don't know how, I don't remember exactly, but I ended up photographing Brian and Susan, and those are the two on the bottom row here. And that's them now. And they were dance partners, and at the time they were guest dancers as within this group of dancers who happened to all be seniors. But now Brian doesn't dance anymore, or so he says, although he can. And Susan is running that very same dance group that they were guest performers in back in 1999.
So Michael, what happens when you do one of these interviews and it's a dud? Right? There's got to be something that I got nothing out of that.
I mean, I try to make them, I've learned a lot about how to not make them duds. And, part of what's made it work, I think, is that I take the time, if they're willing, to get to know them. Because I think you have to, because I know nothing about them. So you have to kind of figure out first, like, who are they? What's important to them? What would they really gravitate towards in terms of a conversation? So, you have to put in the time. But there are some people who just seem like, I think I'd be terrible if someone came to me. Like, you hear me in the film, but like, I'd be terrible if someone came to me and I felt like I was in the spotlight, because I get nervous, like when like the attention's on me. Like now I'm nervous, I'm okay, but I think, yeah.
No. But what I was going to say is, like, for you and for every other photographer, it's learning a new set of tools to make your craft expand.
Yes.
Right? Because
absolutely. We all know how to talk to people, or we should, and we should all listen to people. And I think that, as I try to write grant applications for this project, like, one of the things I say over and over again is that I just think there's so much value in noticing other people, because that's what we have to do first. We have to notice people. We have to be curious about them, especially people who are different from ourselves. Because we're all sharing this world, and there's a lot of problems, and what the heck, how are we going to get past them? So it's really just kind of hopefully make people understand that, and I think this works even if you're just taking pictures, right? Like if you're not making a film, you're not talking to someone, but you just want a good picture. The good one's the one usually where there's a connection. It's not the one where the person's, giving you like a squinty mean eye and they're pissed off that you want to take their picture. I mean, that's not usually the good picture. So I think it's the same in both realms.
Yeah, no, you've mastered.
This is Brian.
I consider my face like a painting, really, and it's kind of fun to do, and like I said, it's part of the whole experience of you're going out and you are finishing off what you're doing. You are. I don't know, makes you feel like a little special. You can cover up a few flaws. I guess there are some people who are, I don't know, a prisoner to makeup. I'm sure more women than men, but I'm not one of those people. I don't, my skin's fine, pretty good. Yeah, I like it.
This is Christine in Bonbonniere in the West Village, and that's her there now. This is Michael. He was working in his family-owned herb shop in Chinatown, and now he's a painter. And this is Ron. He's a psychologist in New York City public schools, and he's been sharing a lot of really great insights, just because that's what the film's basically about, is what things I've been saying, people and, culture and life, everything. This is John. He's semi-retired. I guess I could say he was in advertising. Now he does just some advertising work from home. He lives in Connecticut. And I talked to him about like what was going on in that first picture, because for all these years, I thought he wasn't happy with me taking his picture, but he was going through, working in the ad business, as I'm sure some people who might be watching this may know, if they've talked to the people who hired them, it's a high pressure job, and it's rough. And I think that his face there on the left, that's what that's showing. This is Kenyatta. He was delivering mail in Hell's Kitchen. I photographed him right after the barbershop, Roosevelt Barbershop. Now he delivers mail to buildings in Midtown. And I've asked him, what does he prefer? And so I think you'll figure it out from this little clip here.
Sometimes the old ladies, they come down, they start to gather around the mailman, waiting for the mail to finish. So I go slow, because I'm making their day. So I'll have like maybe 8 or 9 old ladies in back of me, and they'll be chatting away. I know they're waiting for the mail, but I'm extending it. I want them to stand there and talk as long as they can. So that way, when they go back upstairs, maybe they'll take a nap and they'll say they had a nice day because they had a nice chat while the mail was being put into the mailbox.
Beautiful.
So sweet. Yeah. So I hope I'm not taking too long. I'm getting toward the end. Is that okay?
Yeah, move.
Whiz through. Okay. So this is Helen. She was in Central Park. She had a stroke and now lives in a nursing home in Rhode Island. She's one of the people who remembered.
I have to deal with so many different people every day, like 12 different aides, 3 at each meal, 3 at lunch, and 3 at dinner, and 3 at putting me to bed. That's 3, 6, 9, 12 a day that I have to deal with. I have to be nice, and you can't be too nice to them because they get suspicious of your intention. Like one girl who's on at night, she got angry with me because I asked her about herself, and she told me she was going to quit this job here. And I said, "Where are you going to go?" She said, "I'm going to be a state trooper." I said, "You're going to carry a gun?" She said, "Yes, but she can't even come in here and deal with me. So how's she going to deal with all those people in cars that she has to give tickets to?"
This is JK and Bob. Bob also had a stroke. He was the owner of the record shop in the village, Bleecker Bob's.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, and this is JK.
I like it that I can do this for as long as I can, because who knows, And I've been doing it a long time.
Was there ever any question in your mind that you were going to take care of him?
No. It was immediate.
Yeah.
It was just immediate. people ask me that too. They're like, what were you like before you started, like, you know, caring and doing all of this and dedication? And I keep thinking that I was this carefree type of girl, but then people tell me, no, JK, you were always like the person to make sure everybody at the party was okay. And I was like, really? I didn't know. Or maybe they think I was like some kind of crazy like party drug addict, and that now I'm like doing the Mother Teresa thing, you know? And I'm like, no, I kind of wasn't that either.
We're almost at the end. This is Anne Marie and her 2 young twins, and this is her with them now and her husband. This is Dagmara, and this is Dagmara now. This is a poker. Oh, I have to tell you about the poker game. So we got into a poker game, and the guy on the right is named Peter, the guy with the hat, and that's him now. He's a writer and a professional poker player. And this guy is Nick, and I photographed him after Christine outside of Bonbonniere, not realizing that at the poker game where Peter's on the top, Nick was playing in that game. He's the guy in the brown shirt on the bottom 2 pictures on the left. So, and that's just one of like a ton of random coincidences that, you know, happen when you just start to go and interact with people. And that's Nick now. And this is my last guy. This is Inderjeet. My note on the contact sheet from '99 said that he was an economist in a hurry. And here's just one tiny video of him.
We don't pick our parents. We don't pick where we were born or where we are. You know, we certainly have a choice of what we do after we get to this earth. But nobody has a special permit that they were going to be born in place A, B, or C. You know, this is all an accident of nature.
There you go. So Michael, did you have the intention when you did this, when you first shot, that you were going to go back to these people 10, 20 years later?
No.
It just, but you always did take people's names and numbers when you could?
Not every time when I take pictures, but this happened to be I mean, I've worked for newspapers a lot, so I mean, I have a lot of pictures from that where I know whose pictures I took, but like local news. But this really was sort of like a time capsule that, you know, was really fortunate that I had these names to go with the people. But I mean, it's an adventure to try to find people. Just because I have the name doesn't mean I find them.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
No, so thank you very, very much. It was really terrific, Michael. Really, really great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll get Eileen right up. We'll take a 1-2 minute break for water or a beer. Probably beer or wine time by now for everybody. And we'll be right back.
Great.
Here we go. Okay. You ready, Lenny?
Sure.
Eileen, you ready?
I am ready. It's great to be here. And should I share the screen?
Right, where's Jay?
I don't know. Where'd Jay go?
I'm here.
You're here? Okay, I'll share the screen. Desktop.
Lee, you having a good time, Lee?
Yeah. So just to give you a little background, my background is in fashion and beauty and advertising, and I started doing fine art probably, I don't know, as a little kid. And photography, I started really when I was about 8 years old. I asked my dad for my first camera. He owned a printing company. So as a little kid, I would go into the dark room and, you know, kind of watch the magic, and was always curious as to why things were more like 2D instead of 3D. So I asked him for a 3D camera. So he came back with a little plastic camera that was a 3M. So somehow throughout my work, I'm always trying to create dimensionality. And this project came about yesterday and today, basically on COVID. When COVID happened, my husband and I were going to try and take a long distant trip across, basically just keep going until we found places that we liked. He's also a photographer, so we used to photograph a lot together. And I also take a lot of my photographs and I apply them to textiles. So at the time, I actually knew that COVID was coming because I was waiting for an order of samples from China. And they had told me about this virus in January and that it would get delivered in February. And do I still want
Eileen, just let me interrupt you because I want you to go full screen.
Okay, I will. So here's the first image.
Thank you.
And it's composited imagery, which was done in studio and also on location. And then I paint on top of it. And these were meant to be part of a project that I started being an artist. Liam and some of the people from ASMP sent out an email asking if I wanted to go ahead and do a project during COVID. And I thought, okay, I've been shooting anyway, and this sounds like a great idea. So I took from another project that I had worked before called Cosmic Beauty and sort of elaborated on it. And I'm trying to do pairings. So these two, I think, work together, but I don't necessarily want to put them side by side. This is an underwater shot, actually, of roses that I lit in a pool and then solarized. This is my homage to Man Ray. These are underwater roses again. This was a beauty shot that actually I did on my couch with Holga, and then took floral and kind of added a little painting on top of it.
So I think, can you give us a little sense of like what motivates you to come up with this and try that, and you know, that sort of that process a little bit?
Yeah, I'm really didactic. I mean, I pretty much learn on my own. I just sort of gravitate towards taking different mediums, whether I've always been into collaging, whether it's ripping up old prints or painting and adding that together. And then I started doing it with photography. I started with film. So some of these are actually film, some of it is digital, some of it is double exposure in camera.
Okay.
And
when you shot advertising work, were you doing this type of work?
No, actually, when advertising is very different.
I know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's
to understand the
you know, I've
process.
done weddings, and I've actually, you know, shot Hillary Clinton for her foundation. So this is not the type of stuff that I would show to that type of client. This is really, really going out there and trying to do fine art.
Right.
Although a perfume company did come to me actually to do a big building for their architecture, you know, that was being redone, which I thought was a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
Because I love flowers. And this actually is called the Poet's Eye, and it's a white flower, to give you an idea. So it's solarized and just totally manipulated. Here is 35 millimeter. You can see it, and it was just film strip And I was just playing around with roses again on top of her and thought it was pretty cool. I also did her in studio and a model. That was a small little flower. This is very layered and nuanced. It was part of actually, Dugal wanted it for their light box. So I had actually had some prints and I was selling some prints but that were large format, and he ended up using some in the office there.
Wow.
So really the intent of my work is really to make people see beauty in a different way and nature. And this is actually, I do a lot of styling as well. So I picked out the cause, and it was actually going to be a part of a plastic surgery editorial that I worked on.
Wow.
More flowers. And this is from Cosmic Beauty, which was initially a book that I did just on my own, just to try and like show people how accepting different ideas of beauty. I've worked on a lot of beauty campaigns and have done castings for them. So I was always like really happy when Clinique came out with like a beauty campaign that just elaborated on all the different types of skin tones. So I took it a step further basically and just kind of made it unrecognizable. And this is paginated as well. Like that was part of the Cosmic Beauty. So
Eileen, when you create these pieces, how long does it take and how many times do you go back, I got to do a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, or are you easy as far as saying, I got it?
It depends. You know, I can work on something for like 8 hours or 3 days, and then I can just say, forget about it. I'm just going to get rid of it and start over. And then I could just do something immediately. I mean, my whole idea of beauty when I was actually shooting was in studio was never to do any retouching, because I've seen so much of beauty with tons of retouching. So I think the whole thing about portraiture is really capturing the essence of someone. I mean, this was done on a white cyc.
And do you, collaboration is the wrong word, but do you go to your husband, what do you think, you know, just to get input on technique or color or any of that?
Oh yeah.
You do?
I think I'm just totally out there because, I mean, his work is very much like Lynn's.
Okay.
But we did work together as a couple at one point when we were going to start to really see whether we could take off commercially, because I've been on the other end of the industry,
Okay.
a lot of different ends of the industry. I've had a printing background. I started Art Partners. Before that, I worked as an agent with Xavier Moreau as a young agent. So
wow.
I had a lot of background back and forth.
Monroe, my God.
Yeah, with Helmut Newton, you know.
Right.
So really just getting out there and starting to get it out to galleries. It's, you know, it's an unusual, you know, process, I think, because I go to a lot of galleries. I go to the museum. I've been doing that since I was a kid.
Right.
So now, you know, I'm starting to get selling prints, and that's another part of it, which I think Pamela was really great about. Like I did Aqua with Liam and Pamela and Sherry Littlefield, and Ted and Noonan and Ted were also exhibiting at the time. So it's been really, you know, good camaraderie. And the work is very different.
Yeah. That helps, right? When you're doing that collaboration, that everyone's got their own sort of space, right? Their own style, right?
Yeah, because you borrow from everything, you know. I mean, there's so much media out there, that people, I know, ASMP has been fabulous as far as, rights and usages, and there's like a middle, muddled ground basically on what you can do. And in the art world, I think people are like, Richard Prince, okay? He took pictures off the, iPhone or the internet and then blew them up, and then he was in APAD, and everybody was like, how can he do that? And there's art, there's a thought process behind it. It's possible to do. So you have to be really careful, I guess, with what's going on in the internet as well.
I'm surprised that the system didn't break down at the mention of Richard Prince, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, no, I actually admire his work. I think we're all nurses at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But I mean, ASMP has been like really helpful. They do all these wonderful like fine art, talks, and I mean it's just been really great. And actually for me, for getting the work out there, it's actually helped, because it's one thing to sell a print that one at a time, one off, but you really have to know, like, okay, I'm only going to do 3 of one size, and then I'm just going to say I'm not doing any more,
Right. And how do you come up with your pairings?
How do I do the pairing?
Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, what's your
I do little thumbnails and I start moving things around, and some of them are, very contrasty, some complement each other. My colors are super saturated. I showed, like, I've been going to Staley Weiss Gallery for a long time, and because I love her, the fashion photography that she has there. And I went to Lillian Bassman exhibit like in 2017, and for some reason I went back like 3 days later and I saw her talking, and I was just talking to her, and she goes, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm doing a book on cosmic beauty. And I go, she goes, you want to see? Can I see? And I had on my iPhone a black and white portrait and a rose, like huge. And she goes, oh my God, I'm doing the APAD show. Can I borrow this idea? And I'm like, absolutely, because it'll be so different.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of sharing that goes on, but so anything else?
No, oh, so that's it.
That's it right now. That's all I, that's all.
Beautiful. Great. Well, yeah, this, yeah, the work is beautiful. It's very compelling how, like for someone who doesn't have that gift to look at that and just see that it all works. Like as you work with your colors and your framing and everything, that it comes together. It's really beautiful. Really
Thank
beautiful.
you.
So do you have any, so what galleries are you represented in?
I'm not. I'm really just starting out. I mean, part of the idea of being an artist was to really like work on a project, and I'm always working on projects that, I mean, you don't really go in there. You go in with a body of work, and I have another side of me because I do a lot of travel. So I was working on totally different, just very tonal, abstract landscapes that were very small. And these I, think are meant to be very large to go into.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Thanks.
And everybody in the chat room is just loving these images. So
really?
Yeah, I have
Thank
to
you.
say, everyone, beautiful images, love the work, on and on and on. So that's
I mean, it comes from imagination, really. I mean, there's a model, there's flowers, and I like to deconstruct things. I love flowers, I love nature and color.
Yeah.
My husband's actually, he's really into the zone system in black and white, and this is beautiful.
But it works for both of you, right? He's into black and white, you're into saturation.
Yeah, I always call him Kubrickian, and I'm like Man Ray, just totally off the wall. But I love Blumenfeld. I mean, there's so many influences.
Yeah.
I mean, Marilyn Minter. It's like
just great. Well, let's open it up so Liam put a bow on this.
Oh, I'm thanking you all for having me. And this is my first face Zoom to Zoom.
Is that right? No, you did great, and everyone, like I said, is really inspired by your work.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And to everybody, I'll do my closing moments now. Everyone from ASMP is always invited to, whoever wants to present, gets to present. Over time, everyone does get in. There's no real requirements other than loving what you do and sharing it. That's really the job. But I'll turn it over to my friend Liam. There you go, Liam.
Should I get out of this screen?
Jay, she should stop sharing. Well, she's out, right? Jay, she stopped sharing.
Out?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're out, Lenny.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Frank. I would just say, as artists, as creators, as image makers, if there's no place for us to show our images, our lives are not complete. So I want to thank you, Frank, for creating this space. Every time you do one of these events, I'm always impressed by the artists, and I'm just so proud and happy to see Michael and Eileen and Lynn, and just I love all of their work. Michael, I had no idea about that project, so just seeing that was like, it just blew me away. Eileen, I know your work, and I'm so happy to see, and I didn't know that you were working on that in the Being an Artist course. So that's a course that I teach that Eileen did with me. But it's just been fantastic to be here. And so as a participant, I just want to say thank you guys for presenting, because your work is phenomenal. And Frank, thank you for putting this together, because it's phenomenal that you do this. And as the president of ASMP New York, I just want to say we're just so proud to be a part of this. And
all good, all good stuff, and more good things coming down the pike, and more collaboration, and on and on. And a shout out to Ted and Noon for facilitating everything, making everything happen, and Jay, my web guy, who took everybody by the hand and made everyone comfortable with the system, and so that was good. And all the work is very inspiring. I have to say, doing this for such a long time, that you do it, and you're not really sure like what it's going to be at the end of the night, and lo and behold, it's always inspiring. Always. It's it's always great to see the work that people are doing. It's just terrific. So I can't thank you enough, Liam, and everyone at ASMP, for always being accommodating and wanting to collaborate. It's great for everybody. So thank you.